Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Happily Ever After, starring your relationship done different certified facilitators. Today, I get the pleasure of being with these two firecrackers. This live did not come with a safety warning, but I'm gonna say
No
be
projections.
because these are two spicy ladies, and I'm really excited to get into what we're talking about today. So our title for today is talking about projections and expectations and what they create in relationships. And I'm like, if we didn't have relationships, would we even have projections and expectations? I don't know. I feel like we learned them so early from everybody around us. So Rachel, do you want to start off and tell us, like, maybe you take projections and Maya could talk about expectations? How's that? Does that work?
That
Awesome.
totally works.
Okay, you go first.
So a projection is a conviction that someone should be a certain way. So when we take that line alone, like what comes with that is massive judgment. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. It runs into 100 stories that we're talking about in Access at the moment, all 100s. And it basically is about fulfilling what someone wants you to be instead of who you are and what you are. And they're quite cruel and severe on people that are highly energetic. Because someone like me, and I know I can talk for Maya, we will, and Sarah, you give your part on this too. You will put a projection in my world, and because I'm autistic, highly functional autistic, I will perceive that projection. I will hear it really loudly when it's energetic, and I will think it's me, and then I will become the fulfiller of that projection. So for me, I really had to work on being aware of what people are projecting, because I could be corrupted into the projection very easily.
Such a great way to put that too. Corrupted into the projection very easily. Yeah, I used to call when I started to be willing to perceive projections, I was like, I'm a shapeshifter, easy for me to say. Because I was walking through a room one time and I was like, during a time when I was asking for what is a projection and how do they affect me and what would it take to be aware of them. And I went into an access classroom and I said hello to everybody at greeting, and I like perceived myself like energetically morphed to whatever their idea of me was. And then I walked further in the room, and the bookshop lady came running over, and I hadn't met her in person yet. And she's like, "Hello!" And as she was approaching, I was like, "Oh, I shifted again." And it was through the whole room. I was like shape shifting to match projections. It's so subtle. And in relationships, wow. Maya, so can you give us a little bit about expectations, but also how they differ from projections?
Yeah, that actually, while Rachel was talking, I'm like, how do they differ from projections? I guess in a sense, it's like this action I expect you to, and that's where if someone projects we're this, they expect us to take this action or be this way, or so maybe they are intertwined more than I've considered. And that it would be the action part of how that shows up. So if somebody projects that I should be this certain thing, then they expect me to behave a certain way or act a certain way or do a certain thing. And it's funny when Rachel was talking about how she can morph into the thing. I was just thinking that I would probably, or a lot of my childhood would go the direct opposite of what they're expecting me to do or be. So and that's again where we align and agree or resist and react to whatever is projected and expected at us, and both of them are not freedom, basically. So
Yeah. And I love that you bring up childhood, because I know you're a mama, an awesome mama, and you use the access tools. And that's another relationship in our lives. So do you want to talk a little bit about what it's been like to be aware of those things and raise kids and do your best to not project and expect?
oh boy.
I know,
It's like
massive.
no, it's like a work for a lifetime, really, because we are learning ourselves to unlearn all of that. And then we have these creatures in our lives that we are trying our best, but also, not to the degree that we're judging ourselves all the time that we're not doing our best. Or like, yeah, obviously there are moments where I project and expect of my kids. And then it's, they have I mean, I can't even compare what they have to what I have, but it's like a constant exploration, and we just get to have those awarenesses all the time. Oh, I was actually expecting him to do this at that moment, and we have the gift of the tools. Like I can destroy and create that immediately, or choose something different, or ask a question. But it's there. It's like it's everywhere. It's we grew up that way. We have it as adults still project, expect, as you said, we're people.
Yeah.
And that's what people do all the time. So yeah, I mean, I'm so fucking grateful. I don't know how people raise kids without the tools of access consciousness.
I I sort of tried it with my first two for a few years. And
Tried being the opposite word.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Rachel, as a RDD facilitator, relationship done different, certified facilitator, you do classes on relationships, as all three of us do. Can you talk about, because I know for me, like if there's something that I'm looking at in my own life, I always go put a class on the books. Like I always am like, if I facilitate this, I'll find out what I know about this. So I'm curious, like, as you started to explore relationship done different and facilitated it, like, what have you uncovered and become aware of with projections and expectations? And like when you facilitate others, like where that space starts to open up to a totally different possibility.
So first of all, when I have a projection, Maya talked about this with her kids, and I also have kids, and I use them because I think they're where I have grown the most, you know, because I've recognized what is being projected and expected of me. And the only thing that it has ever created is total separation. No oneness. We talk about consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. I have absolutely no receiving of this person, their functionality, what works for them, what do they enjoy, how they choose to live their life. When I am projecting and expecting what they should deliver and how they should behave. And so for me, they're a great way to create separation, hatred, judgment, absolutely no intimacy. And I had so much projection expectation put on me, I had absolute no intimacy with myself. And I'm going to be really vulnerable here and really honest. I had no idea what worked for me before RDD.
Yeah, it's funny when you said that, I was like, we probably didn't even know we're seeking intimacy before, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it wasn't a possibility, like it wasn't on the menu kind of thing.
No. And then the very strange thing that would occur for me when I went to the first relationship class with Gary and Dane, I'm pretty sure it was 2019. It was a 4-day class. I don't know the cause, but this is when I was like, it was a 4-day class. I'm going, it's time to change this. And I remember actually Dr. Dane was there, your brother. And I remember Gary was inviting me to look at what my exchange rate was in relationship. And he was like, so what would you like to have from relationship? And I was like, I get to have something, I get to receive, you know. I'm raised Irish Catholic, eldest girl of 2 daughters, you know. My role was to look after my mom. My job was to make everyone happy. And so I was a very strong little one. And so my role was always to fulfill other people's needs, wants, and desires. So much so that I didn't even know what I would like. I genuinely didn't even know what was relationship for me, which sounds bizarre now because I've come a long way in the development, what Maya talked about, in the development of what I know works for me now.
Can I interrupt you really quick? Because the arc of that story that you just showed me is like, you really didn't know, but you didn't know that you didn't know, did you?
Well, I knew I was unhappy. So I must, like, what I know about consciousness is anywhere there's an upset, that there's a disconnect from what truly works. So I would say the happiness, the unhappiness, the frustration, the anger, they were all symptoms of me not following what was going to work for me. And like, if you looked at it, you would see that something wasn't working. And now I can look back in hindsight and be like, the frustration, the unhappiness. So energetically, none of it was working for me, but the symptoms of it were what we call distraction.
And I love that you highlight that. I'm just looking from like somebody who's listening to this and maybe have never done any access and is like, because they're not getting what they project and expect from relationships. They're unhappy, but they think they know what works for them, and they're just not finding something that matches it. And what you showed us is like, then I went into question. I took a class and I was like, oh, I've been asking for, projecting, expecting, looking for, seeking something that doesn't even work for me. Like, I don't even know it works for me. Now I need to go explore that.
And a step further, which may freak some people out, is my projection was that you would make me wrong and that I wasn't good enough, which was my mother's way, her relationship with herself, which we're getting into a huge expectation and projection, which are all energetic as children. You know, we pick up our parents' projections in utero. and so here am I walking through the world with my mother's projection, energetic projection of herself, thinking that's me, and it wasn't me at all. I was just actually, we talk about biomimetic mimicry and access, which is you are mimicking someone else's reality instead of having you and knowing what works for you. They're like, their universes apart.
It's wild.
It's wild.
11 and a half minutes in, ladies and gentlemen.
And so Maya, can you talk about what like intimacy is for you with regards to like your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your partner, your relationship, like how do you incorporate these RDD tools to create the intimacy?
Okay. Well, yeah, using, I just realized as we were talking, like how much, we are recommended to ask every morning to destroy and create all the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections, and how little people actually use that tool. I find that so many of the conversations that I have with people with, issues with their toddlers and issues with their partner or kids or whatever, it so many times boils down to those projections and expectations. And as Rachel mentioned, like there is no intimacy available when that's all we're functioning from. And it's such a huge exploration to actually get to be with someone and be without those projections and expectations. And it's like, it's work, people. It's work, and it's choice every 10 seconds. But seeing the intimacy, like my daughter's about to turn 13, which is a very tricky age, and we're so close. And I know that it can change overnight as well, but every day I'm just like, I'm so grateful. Like I would never imagine this. Like with everything that I was functioning from before I had the tools, this wouldn't have been the result. Like I know that 100%. Yeah. So I just get like, she tells me how she tells me things that her friends do not tell their mothers. And she's like, so she's aware that it's different as well, which is really cool. But she just has this freedom of like opening up that I didn't have, and using the tools is what created that. So
that's so cool. Yeah, I have my kids tell me, like, they're like, I don't know why, or my kids' friends come over to talk to me about their problems because they can't talk to their parents. My daughter's best friend hijacked my pickup the other day. Was picking up my daughter from high school, and her friend jumped, and she's like, I'm going home with you. I have a boy problem. We need to talk. And I was like, okay. Like it was the wildest thing. But it is that gift that the tools is that it keeps us in question, out of judgment and reaction, which is what our projections and expectations create. And then people feel, more, and this is like layman's terms, if you will, but like at ease around you, and our kids are able to like share and get vulnerable and not fear the judgment and the outrage that like I grew up with. I don't know about you ladies. But so I have a curiosity, either one of you can jump in on this. For someone who's listening and is like, but how do I have a romantic relationship and ask for what, because the world's telling me I need to ask for what I desire. I need to tell him or her that this is what I'd like to have, and not turn that into a projection and expectation. So, because it's so, if someone could hear this for the first time and be like, okay, don't project, don't expect, and then also like become the wallflower in their relationship. So, how do those two play together in the nuance of these things?
I genuinely can't see how you can get what you want through control. Like, all projection and expectation is about getting it right and wrong. And so I genuinely can't see how that works unless you're looking for a puppet to fulfill what you've decided that you need, you know? And so for me, in the asking and receiving of what you truly desire, a beautiful tool that we give in all classes is make a list of 10 energies that you would like to have. And like I did this, go grab a piece of paper, put a line down through the center, and write the energies that you'd like to have in a relationship and the energies you would not like to have. The thing about this is, if you're looking for someone outside of you to fulfill what you've decided you haven't got, it won't work. You know, RDD essentially is about creating the relationship with yourself to be very clear on what works for you. Because one of the things with, if you're going to create a beautiful relationship that allows you to become greater, then you're going to have to be very clear about what works for you, you know, which is essentially where a lot of people tend to get lost. And so start to take a look at like what brings more living, like going for a walk in nature. That might be a simple thing. I'd like someone who goes for walks. I like a hugger. Like, if you date a guy and he's not a hugger, then he's not going to be able to fulfill that requirement that you have. And so for me, I would say it's getting very vulnerable. There is no vulnerability and presence in projection and expectation. Vulnerability is like, this is what works for me and what works for this person in front of me, and knowing whether they can actually gift you what you're looking for. And if they don't, it's like a pair of jeans. Like, if we're going out and buying jeans today, unless you've found your perfect pair of jeans, which some of us have right now, and what I mean by that is something that fits well and they're comfy and they work for your body. And so you're going to have to play with this and see and get out there. And if you're looking at a romantic relationship, get out there and start dating or start seeing what does work for you, And this is where, for me, it's discovering more of you. And like, one of the things that's non-negotiable for me is like the willingness to grow and change and go to peace and ease no matter what's occurring. So therefore, if someone is choosing conflict all the time, then that's not a sustainable future for me. Whereas that might be, there's no right or wrong. Some people might love fighting all the time. That's what I grew up in. And there's no right or wrong or good or bad, but I know now that would not work for me at all. And so I would say, really get present with what your priorities are, peace, having fun together. What if the purpose of a relationship is to have fun? And then we're coming into a load of projections and expectations again, because what's fun for me may not be fun for Maya or Sarah, And so some people, like my son, loves to go out and drink alcohol at Christmas with his friends and they have a great time. That's fun for him, but that's not fun for me, And so this is there's you got to really get clear on what works for you, what brings you more energy. When you ask, like, does this person improve my life? How do we know someone improves our lives? We feel better when we're around them. We've more energy, And so it's something that you require to get present with in regards to what works for you. Someone who kisses, someone who's intimate, someone who hugs. You got to really look at what you require and then what really doesn't work for you. And this list, I think the first time I heard it was Simone Millis's talking about, go make your list, and then what works for you. A projection is always control. You have to be this way or you're out, and that's it. Just doesn't work. Yeah.
And I would say the list changes, like, because we're in the process of getting to know ourselves as well and getting out of judgments. So it's like, how can we do that with the most amount of play and not judging ourselves, basically?
Yeah, and when you have a request and someone isn't showing up for that, because I think that's where the fine line is. It's like, hey, this is what works for me, and someone isn't showing up for that. So am I controlling, judging, or separating if I speak on it to them?
It was interesting because when Rachel mentioned her relationship with her mother, it's kind of similar. Like, I would say for a lot of people, we grew up with like, what is my role in this relationship, which is projection and expectation. So it doesn't matter if it's a mother-daughter situation or I'm the man in the relationship, therefore X, Y, Z, or I'm the woman in the relationship. And for each probably culture, religion, where you grew up has different categories of that, but if you do it on automatic, you're going into like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to be this is my role, this is my job. And that's where we get lost and try to fulfill projection, expectation, separation, judgment, rejections. So that wasn't your question.
No.
Your question is, if someone is not fulfilling it.
Well, it's that's the line I'm walking is like where Rachel gave us a beautiful example of like, make your list, know what works for you, but don't turn it into projection expectation. So I'm just wondering, like, so if I want someone who hugs and someone hugs and then they stop hugging, how do we express that without expecting or projecting that they go back to what I want them to be?
Yeah,
or what my request is.
The roles are like, I think it's just exploration for both sides of like where we decided where we're supposed to be. Then we might start actually getting to know ourselves and what we truly are. And it can, I think one of the beautiful things in the beginning of the Divorceless Relationship book is that Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here talk about how for most cases people, like it's a greater result no matter if they stay together or they separate. It's just people are happier. Whether they're staying in the relationship and then they're happier, or they realize it's not the relationship for them and they're happier. But the idea is to go to a place where everyone's happier, basically.
I like it. It's a good target.
Part in this is that if your partner or your lover or whoever it is not capable of delivering you hugs for your body, let's say today, tomorrow, or whatever, maybe they're going through something in their life that's creating a lot of change for them. Go cuddle up with someone else, you know? And I mean, I know years ago when I was moving through change in what I was looking to create in a relationship, I used to cuddle up with a friend and watch movies, you know, or cuddle up with your niece or your nephew, you know. I get what really doesn't work is making one person the source of everything. That's not sustainable, nor does it work, you know. For me, I love being with my friends. Then I love having a lover. I enjoy being with my kids, you know. I enjoy being with dogs, with the trees. So to project on one person to deliver everything it probably doesn't work. And then the other thing in this is that when you're being you, and if someone that you care about asks for a hug, then why would you not to deliver that, you know? And sometimes when we're being honest, we're just not capable of being that for the other person. And that's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's all about what can be received and what can be gifted, and neither is right or wrong.
It's cool with the thing of like have a lot of people in your life that provide different things. Like it sounds so simple, but it's quite radical actually. Like, I don't know. When I read it in one of the books, it wasn't like obvious to me, I would say. Like, holy shit, just to see how much we project on one person to be so many things for us. Like, so that was a huge eye opener for me. And then it's like, oh, so as you said, who can provide this for me? Who can provide this for me? And the pressure that goes off the other person, which sometimes actually might freak them out, but you know, it changes everything.
They might come running to hug you when you come home.
Totally. which again, that might be the result that, because the pressure is off, then suddenly a different possibility is available. So,
That's super cool. So before we wrap, you guys, do either of you want, or I'd love both of you actually, to share a little invitation to what RDD classes are, what you're aware of they can create, and what your favorite thing is about them, or anything else you want to share.
The takeaway for me is I hated myself. I know some people that know me now didn't know me 12 years ago, but I actually hated myself. Like I had quite a toxic relationship with myself. And I actually like the person looking back in the mirror right now. And when you like the person that you are, relationships with other people, because when I'm making me wrong, I'm making everyone else wrong too. And relationship for me is about what can I create when I actually enjoy me and when I like me, because your first relationship with yourself. And I am stunned. I would say they're essential. Maya said it, I can't see how you can actually create what you would like to create. My point of view is that Shannon O'Hara says there should be universities to educate you on the conscious creation of relationship. My point of view is I can't see how you can create it without this information. Sustainable, growing, thriving relationships that allow you to become greater.
I love that. Maya?
Yeah, to add to that, the manual, oh my God, like there's just so much in there, and it's just a deep dive into a whole new world, like foundation, amazing manual as well. And there's so many topics in there, but then like relationship is kind of so focused on that topic that you're just like, okay, here we go. It's for the brave, not really. I mean, it's for everyone if you really want to thrive with people, with everything you're doing on this planet. It's amazing. So many tools, so many questions, so many perspectives on relationship. Wow. Yeah.
It also says a lot when Maya talks about a relationship with a 13-year-old, a 13-year-old girl, like mother-daughter, and it working, and they're grateful for each other and they're honoring each other. That's a different possibility in our world,
So true.
Yeah.
So true. I love it. Well, I'm very, very grateful to have had this conversation with you ladies. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your host.
Thank you.
I think I'm actually hosting it. There's another one of these coming up, at least one more, I do believe. But please do go to Access Consciousness, check out accessconsciousness.com, check out Relationships Done Different. There are facilitators all over the world, and they are there to contribute ease and space for you with these tools. I think that's all I got. So
thanks so much, Maya. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.